Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. In this special episode, we're going to talk about our favorite zombie properties. It's a jam-packed episode. We have a lot of cool movies, games, and TV shows to talk to you about. But without further ado, Dylan, this is crazy. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. So
You started off strong.
I know. I messed up what I said. This is crazy. Dylan, this is crazy. I don't know what the fuck.
You are completely off your mind.
I don't know what
That's what I should have said. I should have said.
You are completely off your mind.
Well, what's your favorite zombie property?
Oh, so we're just gonna go straight into it.
Yeah, they're looking at us right now. Dylan, come on. Sorry, everybody. We're in a joyful. I don't really know what the fuck I'm saying. Come on, Dylan. Tell us.
I'm sorry, everybody. Okay. Yeah. So everybody, welcome to the channel. For my first zombie property that I'm covering, well, I have four. I'm not like a huge zombie head. I know you're more passionate about the genre, but there's a few that I enjoyed. 2010's The Crazies. It's not like traditional zombie flick per se, but it does have some elements in it. But I like that it's more of this kind of pandemic, which is ironic because with the pandemic that just happened, and this was 2010, so it was way before all this masking and shit happened. But it just goes to show if I always wonder if COVID was more serious than it was, would we actually could this shit happen? Would we all just be in utter chaos? I mean, we kind of were, but we see so Timothy Oliphant plays David, and he's kind of this sheriff, and he goes under. He's investigating these murders that are happening, and they're very strange because people they don't really have they're not aware of where they are, and they kind of have these violent tendencies, and they kind of there's a pattern that happens, and then you realize that there's this bigger government cover up that's happening too. So it's very gritty realism, and it's very I feel this could actually happen in real life too. But yeah, Akram, what were your thoughts when you watched this movie?
Yeah, man, that was so long ago. I think it's kind of an underrated movie too. I don't think it was a bad movie. It felt very early 2000s. It had that feel. Timothy Oliphant, I love that actor. And again, the whole thing was zombies. Zombies started really voodoo, right? Taking over the mind, the spirit, and you're controlling people. So I guess this type of toxin is just controlling people. So I would kind of count that as a zombie or a reiteration of a zombie.
It's a biological attack kind of, yeah.
Well, and then even that, most zombies is always some virus or some weapon that left wherever, a canister or some shit like that. I think it was a really cool idea. I think zombies for me represent our darkness, and who we're fighting each other, and especially in a small town like that, you're fighting your neighbors. So I think it makes for a very it's a very scary approach. You have to fight your neighbors, you have to kill people that you once knew, right? But they're completely different. It's almost as if they're all possessed or something. I think the way how they set up stuff too was really cool, interesting shots. There were so many people with shotguns, and it's a very scary situation. One of my favorite scenes actually is in the morgue or whatever, with that little saw thing. It was so an early cliche kind of 2000s action scene, but I always enjoyed it.
Yeah, it shows that zombies don't have to eat flesh to be scary, right? They can just be homicidal, right? Because most of these zombies, all they do really is they just find ways. It's kind of it reminded me of The Happening, when they all found ways to kill themselves, but they were killing other people. So we have we have stabbings, we have we have this one dude burned the house down with his wife and kids in it. So it shows they still retain some intelligence, I guess. But they're just I guess they it's it triggers their aggressive abilities or something. But I thought it was a great film, and Timothy Oliphant killed it in this movie. But what is your first zombie property?
Well, the first one, I think it's kind of either it's overrated for some and underrated for others. I picked Army of the Dead. The reason why, and this dropped on Netflix, this is Zack Snyder's second take on the zombie genre. It's brand new. He's trying to build like this universe with it. We still have like some updates to come. There's like going to be an anime, a prequel, and also like a sequel to Army of the Dead. I got into it because if you guys don't know, I'm a huge gun nut. So, and I love tactical stuff and like looking into this, the way how they design like certain armor pieces, it made sense. Like Dave Bautista wears like some gauntlets for the bites and stuff. The way how everyone is just designed. I looked in ArtStation. There is like a lot of concept art for like these costumes too. So they were meticulously picked, and I think it's a realistic interpretation of how it would be like in real life. And I think also he's playing with unique ideas. It has like elements of aliens, Las Vegas, very stylistic. I like the characters. I the ensemble was really great. So yeah, have you ever watched Army of the Dead on Netflix?
I've not. I've seen like clips of it on YouTube, but like you said, it looks very like stylized. It's kind of like you're watching like a video game or
Yeah.
something like happen unfold. But yeah, yeah. What do you, or why did you pick this film? Like, what stands out to you as far as like the zombie genre?
Well, there's just so much mixed into it. Again, there's like alien stuff, there's cyborg stuff, little Easter eggs of like sometimes some zombies get shot in the head and they have like a metallic skull. It's really weird. It's like setting up something. In the very beginning, there was like some UFO that just passes by. They were in Area 51. That's where the Patient Zero was. And then again, it's a heist movie at the end of the day. So it's so many things, playing with so many ideas. And I think it was well done how they did that. I just think Zack Snyder kind of messed it up when, spoiler alert, like majority of the characters died. I didn't really like that they did that, because it kind of felt like all this was for nothing. But we were introduced to cool characters like Ludwig or Dieter. I think everyone loves Dieter, our famous fucking, he breaks into bank vaults. It's awesome how he does it, right? He's like an artist just doing it. There was a sequel, Army of Thieves, which was awesome as well. Not really like involving a lot of zombie stuff, but it was great to see like how he became Ludwig Dieter, which is actually a fake name. So yeah, I just love it. And also Omari Hardwick, if you guys are a big fan of Power, he's in this as well. I just love the little dialogue scenes he has with Dieter. They kind of have like a bromance going. I think it's really cool. Yeah, it was just a really fun movie. Like, and for me, I get sometimes nervous seeing certain like that's the only thing I get nervous by. Like after watching a zombie movie, I like sometimes think in my mind like, damn, I kind of feel nervous, like a little bit paranoid. Like some of this maybe could happen. We're gonna talk a little bit later about like some zombie movies, like how certain zombies came to be, and it's actually realistic. Has a lot to do with fungus and stuff. This movie kind of it's like this alien approach, which reminds me a lot of Walking Dead, which we'll talk about a little bit later, because apparently one of the fan theories is that the zombie virus started from an asteroid that hit Earth. Really interesting stuff. But yeah, that's my pick. Let's go back to you.
Okay, so for my second one, I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed this movie, and it's one of Will Smith's breakout roles. I Am Legend in 2007. Great movie, man. This really, like, I don't know, something about it. It's like they don't show the zombies too much in this movie. It's mainly like just Will Smith, and he's kind of like surviving in this apocalypse. But it shows, like, I don't know, it's something about isolation and just being by yourself. I don't know. It really speaks to like how would you in this situation, survive? How would not just surviving like zombies, but like surviving just being by yourself, and kind of like you're the only person that I mean, he has the dog obviously, but he's the only person in his mind, and he makes like these cardboard cutouts of like people in like stores. So he kind of like fabricates these like kind of like dioramas of like situations to make himself sane, to because he is this like he's a scientist. I forgot, I think he helped like engineer this virus that led to not just everybody dying, but his family too. Like he lost his family too. Yeah, what were your thoughts on this movie?
Well, yeah, no, actually, he was a part of he was a military scientist, and he was like high ranking, and I always loved that beginning too, with the lady speaking in the beginning, like, yes, we've cured cancer, and then I love the cut And it's like, oh, I just love how they present it too. This movie had three takes in I Am Legend. First, it was a novel. Then it was like a 1950 or 1960 black and white film, and then it was like a 1970 film, which I thought was really relevant today's times. Actually, that one had to really. It was really about like going against society. It was just one man against this vampiric cult, and it's like he's the only one that really is going against everyone else. Like everyone else is like living peacefully in a way. They have like a new type of ideology, but he goes against that, and he goes against that by having guns and just killing them. So it's a really interesting take. Like, who's the real villain here? I think maybe the guy is the real villain. And Will Smith in this movie, I guess he has this scorn building up for what happened to his family. He has this regret. He's still, though, grasping onto hope. He's trying to revive humanity. And I think that's beautiful. It's complex because you're dealing with both sides, trauma, grief, and then you're also trying to deal with hope and the light that hope brings. So I think it's really cool. I like the guns there too, man. I just really like how he's holding that gun. I love the little vinegar thing on the doorstep when he's like preparing. That movie made me feel really nervous too, I gotta admit. But I think you and I can agree that sometimes like the later half of like a lot of these films, they usually, like for me, they become a little dry. For me, I really liked it. It was very like a one-man army type of like ending, but I don't know. I just wish I saw more of like a survival aspect. Like I wanted it to be bigger somehow. It's weird to say, but like I think it's intimate because it delves into psychology, but I don't know. I still wanted to see a little bit more action. And I heard this could be a sequel, but I guess Will Smith slapped that sequel right out of the fans' minds, or
I guess so.
Or, yeah, because no more sequel, I guess.
I remember watching the DVD version, and they actually, I think they had like two short animated clips where they showed like what was happening in different parts of the world.
Really?
So there was like this one like brother and his sister. They turned into like zombies, and they kill their family and shit. But yeah, I was kind of sad about his ending. But at the same time, it's the silver lining. Because he develops this cure too. You know what? I was big mad about the dog. I was big mad when the dog died.
Everyone
that was the saddest scene. I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And sometimes those zombies kind of annoyed me too, like the big zombie. Like that scene always, like I always remember that scene just because like he was like in your face, like in the glass.
Right.
And you could see like Will Smith's character, like he was so prepared to, like he had like the floodlights because these zombies are like very sensitive to light. So he has like these like traps set up. He's very well prepared, and it really shows you like he's been living in this world for like too long, I would say, and he starts to like lose his sanity. Yeah, even like Alice Braga, like her character was great too. It shows like how one person can like change your whole demeanor and your mindset. I always that scene where like he's crying and he's like, there is no God, right? I don't know. It's very powerful. Like it's one of my favorite roles that Will Smith did.
Yeah, for sure. And the kid too. The kid, I think, reminded him a lot of his child. There's a lot that has to do with the dog as well. I think a lot was perfect timing. They brought him back to humanity just when he was about to lose it, and he had to sacrifice because he thought about the greater good. And there was two deleted. I think there was like one other ending where he didn't die. I wish he didn't die, but I don't know how he's gonna come back for the sequel. Maybe it's like a prequel or something. But yeah, a really cool pick. Yeah, I guess I should get into mine, right? So this film is underrated, actually. The Girl of All the Gifts, that came out in 2016. It's a very, I must say, like, British zombie horror movies are really good. There's some on our lists. And this is like one of them. Gemma Arterton is in this as well. The main character, Sania Nanua, she's playing Melanie. And it takes place in this dystopian setting where there's this small military group that's trying to find this cure for, apparently there's like fungus and like spores that infect people, and it goes into their brain. It's kind of like The Last of Us, and it grows like roots inside their brain and stuff like that. And that's what turns them into zombies. But they lay dormant for most of the time if you don't bother them. And these children, they're new iterations of zombies. They are sentient, they're conscious, but they could, if you cut yourself or if you spit even on your own hand, right, they get hungry and their jaws like extend, and then they start chomping like this, and they become animalistic. And it's interesting how they balance these ideas of like society. It kind of reminds you of the 1970 I Am Legend. It's like the whole thing that they're struggling with is that that girl is the cure to save everybody, but should we save everybody because mostly everyone is dead already? And she's proof that she evolved, right? She is a regular person, except like if you cut yourself, she'll go attack you, but she wouldn't attack other zombie people. And there's a lot of other children that's just like her. So what happened if this new era of these zombie children take over and they build a new society and they have like these gifts? You know, it's really cool. And I love like the guns here too. Very you know, British. Oh, and Patty Constantine in this as well. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you heard it from the zombie expert himself, guys. Check it out.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Well, I guess speaking of you know, British zombie flicks, my next one, you know, big cult favorite, and really what I feel like started the whole wave of, you know, zombie culture, is 28 Days Later.
Yes.
2002, directed by Danny Boyle, starring Cillian Murphy. Yeah, it's I think it's like a very shocking film when you watch it. I heard like there was like a few like people that had to leave the theaters just because it was too much for them. Well, we see this person, Cillian Murphy's character. He's in the hospital and he wakes up and kind of like the whole world has gone to shit because of this virus. I think they call it the Rage.
Yeah.
It was strung from this kind of like chimpanzee like epidemic. Even that whole like scene with the chimpanzees was like disturbing too. It was like really, really scary. So it leads to this kind of like outbreak, and I feel like it kind of like inspired like Walking Dead in a way. Just like that whole intro, and that whole like scene is iconic. When he's like walking on the bridge and you see like London, it's like kind of like abandoned. Everything is like gone to shit. So this movie, yeah, it really like transformed how, you know, zombies are depicted in movies now. They don't have to be like these slow kind of like awkward creatures. They can be like super fast and running and like very like violent. And I feel like this movie did for zombie films what 30 Days of Night kind of did for like vampires and made them like more terrifying again. But I know you got some thoughts on this movie, so I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, so I think this movie is awesome. It's one of my favorite zombie movies as well. It is in the genre of gritty realism, and I think that's why a lot of people left the theater, because the way it was depicted, and gritty realism isn't just the way how the monsters are designed, it's also about the set. It's when we see that he's by himself, and it's also funny. Yeah, you were talking about Walking Dead. Walking Dead was created around the same time in 2002. I think that was when the first issue for Walking Dead came out, and probably that inspired Robert Kirkman. Yeah, and then you just see like abandon all hope, you know, and it's like he's looking at the board and like there's so many people like missing, you know, you're getting all this trash around there. The music is slowly like ramping up here and there. And then when he goes into the church, the place where you think you'll find safety, the place that you're supposed to feel absolutely love and safe, it's just completely disrespected. So it kind of feels like there is no hope. And so then in my mind, I think, well, damn, and these guys, they run and they don't want to eat me. They just want to kill me. So it doesn't matter how fast they kill me. It's not, they don't care. They're just going to go for it. They'll take you out as fast as they can. It's completely terrifying. I think about one thing about gritty realism I think of is, you know, how would I evacuate my family from that type of situation? What weapons would I use? What resources do I have? Will the government even assist us? Because the soldiers at the end of the day have families too, so they'll probably abandon us as well. So all this comes into your mind, and you kind of have to just think impromptu, and you have to just survive, and you might do a lot of bad stuff along the way. And I love that character Selena, played by Naomi Harris. She looks like she's been through the ringer, especially when she killed Mark. Mark, are you bit? No. It's like, you know,
I forgot about that part.
no.
But yeah, I mean, it talks a lot about like you know, fucked up scenarios where like self-preservation, you know, trumps like, you know, what we feel for people, you know. And then it kind of led to that, you know, if anyone's watched the sequel, I think it's 28
Oh, I
weeks
love
later.
that too. Yes.
Yeah, we see this other scene where like the guy like he leaves like the wife and the kid in the house, and he kind of like dips.
Oh, man.
It's scary to think about. It's really scary to like you know, we and Walking Dead explores this also, that we don't just lose like our lives and our sanity, but also just like everything that we've been taught as a society. We kind of have to abandon those just in the name of survival.
Yeah, and let me tell you, 28 weeks later, I think that uh it was all right. I think the second half again it suffers from that like virus that some zombie movies have, where it just like gets weak a little later on. But cool, Jeremy Renner was there as well, and at least the sequel, which is
Oh yeah,
awesome.
he was a sniper, right?
Yeah, I love that scene, dude. So, like, the movie isn't bad. I remember when I was young watching Spike TV back in the day, if you guys remember, sometimes they put movies and they had 28 weeks later. And then later on, they talked about where they were filming the first scene, which I think to this day is super iconic, where Don, the character, is running away and he left his wife back there. And you have that famous theme song playing and more zombies are running after him. And he's just like that. It's so intense. I remember they said that college students were like on the other side of like that hill or whatever. And they were just watching like these guys running and they were so terrified. They were so scared.
That probably triggered a lot of PTSD in these new generation.
Well, that was cool. And it also
crazy.
shows you that evil, you can't really distinguish. I think that was really like a metaphor. Like when Jeremy Renner, they were all saying, just fire on everybody, right? It's like sometimes you can't really distinguish. Evil has many shapes, right? And you can't really distinguish who isn't infected, who is infected, especially from that view. You kind of have to look closer to analyze that. And I think it's a representation of our society in general. And that's why I love zombie flicks. It's just because of that. It makes me think morality.
Yeah, it's that paranoia also. And then the Crazies also played with this too. They were, because they killed, they didn't discriminate, who was like, infected or who wasn't. At the end of the day, it's out of this fear that these horrific acts happen, right?
Right.
But yeah, one of my favorite zombie flicks. But going back to you, what is your next zombie property?
Yeah, so this was originally written by, I believe, it's like a famous actor that he was like in that. What's that space movie that's like a funny space movie that's like Fuzzballs or something like that? I forgot. It's like a parody of Star Wars.
Spaceballs. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. So the guy who plays Darth Vader, I believe, or there's like an old guy there.
Dark Helmet Man. Yeah.
I forgot who, but like his son wrote this book, World War Z, and that's what I'm going to talk about right now, World War Z. And I must say, it's not the best movie, but I think the way how I never seen that before, zombies piling on top of each other. And I think that's a unique concept where the cure is actually infections and diseases. I think it's a cool play on that of cures in general. Brad Pitt's in this. I think he was great. I think the beginning was horrifying, absolutely horrifying in that apartment building. I think the theme song is awesome. Not so much of a star-studded cast, but that doesn't really matter because I think everybody played their role super brilliantly. And also it takes place in Israel later on, and I think that was terrifying. And I felt so mad when they were making so much noises, and then you just see like them going up the wall and stuff.
Rami was there for some reason.
Rami, yeah, I know. His luck. The lady made fun of him, and also the zombies come down. It's like, So what did you think of World War Z?
I'll be honest, I've never actually watched
Really?
World War Z. I don't know, it's something about it. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
Okay.
But I did like you said, the idea of like zombies working as like a horde, kind of like they're as like a hive mind.
Right.
Because when we see zombies, they're very like independent. They kind of, it's just like whoever infects who, that they kind of have their own survival instincts or traits, right? But yeah, seeing the zombies like work together in unison, I thought that was a really interesting concept.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there might be a sequel down the line, so just stay tuned. This movie came out in 2013. Oh my goodness, that was so long ago. It didn't feel like too long ago this movie came out. Wow.
Like I'm aging listening to all these reviews. Gosh.
It does. It feels like that, right? Yeah. So what's your next pick?
Well, this is my final pick. And it's a cult favorite, I would say. From Robert Rodriguez, because I love his films. Planet Terror, from 2007. It's I don't know. I think it's the one that helped kickstart his career. From Dimensional. So yeah, I just love it. It's a really fun film just to get into. It's like ultra violence, and but there's cool characters in it. It's like a very like they each character has like their own like little side story going on, and they kind of have their own like badass moments. And yeah, shout out to Rose McGowan and Freddie Rodriguez. They were like my favorite characters in this movie. Oh my god, when Freddie Rodriguez he pulls out the butterfly knives
Oh
and
yeah.
he starts like whooping ass in the hospital. That's like one of my favorite scenes. Yeah, Josh Brolin's in this too. Bruce Willis. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's crazy cast. Yeah, it's like one of those films that you can just like have fun with, and but I do like how it's shot too. They have like this kind of like grain effect for the entire movie, and the color palette's like really dark.
Yeah.
So it feels like you're watching like somebody like record this happening like the whole time. You're just playing it back and you're like watching the events unfold. But I don't know if you've seen this film.
Oh
but,
yeah.
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 What are your thoughts on it?
So originally that came out and yeah, it was just basically a Grindhouse. It was a 2-part movie, right? It had Death Proof. Quentin Tarantino directed that, starring Kurt Russell. And then they had some trailers, some fake trailers playing, and that's where the famous trailer for Machete came to be.
Machete.
And then and then later on, then Planet Terror was the last one, I believe. And yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, it's very grunge. It's over stylized, but that's the point. I think it's fun. I remember Fergie back in the day was in it when she was more popular, and she died right away. I was like, oh shit! When I rewatched this, I didn't expect her to die so fast. Everybody felt like this special character, even if they died later on. It's very cheesy, but in the right way, I think. I think they made Rose McGowan look so badass too. It's a unique concept. Still wondering how did she fire that gun though from her leg? Like I was still thinking,
Without pulling the trigger.
yeah, how are you doing that? But I think it's
guess.
really cool. I thought it
Yeah.
was a cool movie. I like the ending. I'd like to see a sequel, to be honest with you. I know it's like weird, but if it's what it is, it's a very niche thing too, because nobody really like when you talk about Grindhouse, not a lot of people know about it. They maybe know of like Death Proof, just because Quentin Tarantino, but not even that. It's like very like
Who
low
ironically
key.
is in this movie too.
Right. Yes, he's also in here as well. Yeah, where his balls fall off and stuff like that
Right.
later on. It's a star-studded cast. It was fun for sure. Yeah, great pick.
Yeah, like I said, I had fun with it. It's just one of those like flicks that you just want to have a good time with. And that's Robert Rodriguez's style too. He's very like action oriented. If you've seen his other films, and he even directed Book of Boba Fett. He has kind of like this like spaghetti western style almost too. But yeah, that's my final pick. How about you? Any other picks for you?
Well, guys, now we reached the exclusive section of this episode. Non-subscribers, go away. No, you're all welcome. Yeah, so I have a couple here. So again, I'm talking about zombie properties, and hopefully that I can recommend some of these, and you guys will actually check it out. I'm gonna start with now. Not starting, but I'm gonna keep talking about it. Train to Busan. I think it's a lot of people's favorites.
Yes.
Really cool South Korean film. And it starts Gong Yoo from Squid Game, which is cool. The guy who likes to slap people in the face, just like Will Smith. He's in this. And also you have Ma Dong-sik. Sorry if I'm butchering that. He's from The Eternals as well. Very cool. It's very like claustrophobic because it takes place in one train. But I think the zombies were really cool. Not so unique, but I think that the way how they set up certain moments made it all the more anxiety filled and really white knuckling. The guy's just trying to take care of his daughter. He isn't like the best dad, so I think that's really compelling to see that he's trying to protect her through life and death, and how far he would go for her, right? And you could really see his true love. And I think the ending was just so sad. A lot of scenes in this was really like, whoa, this is really intense. Have you seen Train to Busan?
I've seen bits and parts of it. But it's very experimental, like you said. And I do like the idea of like them, trapped on this train. It made me think of like Snowpiercer almost.
Kind of, yeah.
Like how they're trying to like fight for survival in this very enclosed like space. But yeah, I remember a lot of people like were raving about this film for a long time, and
Yeah.
I believe that did they have a sequel?
Yeah,
this
that was
movie?
ass. It was Peninsula or something like that. It wasn't really good.
Oh,
They
yeah.
they strayed away from what the movie was supposed to be about, and they made it more blockbuster-ish. And I think, and it took place like a little bit in the future, and the whole city I tell you what, the cars, right, in Peninsula were all CGI, and it was so fake how they did it.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, it was so bad.
It was so fake, dude.
Sure.
And she was going like 400 miles per hour, and like, oh yeah, and she's like spinning and everything.
Right.
It's so fake, but it is what it is. I mean,
Other than that, I thought the movie was all right.
well, Train to Busan, yeah, I know Train to Busan. I think it's wonderful if you're a zombie head, and or if you're not, get into it. Look at Train to Busan. I think it's awesome. That being said, my next pick, I think this is my last movie actually before I move on to shows. I think a lot of people like Dawn of the Dead. It's kind of like mixed. It's Zack Snyder's first take on the zombie franchise, and it's a reboot of the original Dawn of the Dead, 1980s one. I liked it. I think it's cool because Zack Snyder in this movie, he chose to have like a very saturated palette while filming. It kind of reminds me of Michael Bay flicks. The blood was very red.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very early 2000s like take on characters, and like it's a little bit cheesy. It's always that guy that there's always like a young guy that like he's like an important role, but he never dates like a girl or something. He's like, oh man, or something, and he has like a gun for some reason. It's really cool though. It's really fun. Yeah, have you watched Dawn of the Dead though?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I watched this movie, and I remember watching this, in tangent with like the Resident Evil movies, and like I kind of like when the whole like zombie craze was going on too. I also enjoyed this movie as well. I mean, yeah, it is really cheesy and it's very like generically stylized, but I don't know, it kind of like brought that whole survivor. I think it started a lot of these like survivor group like trends now that you see, and like very like stupid characters. I think the dude from was it Modern Family's in it too.
Oh, Ty Burrell.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a fun movie. I had fun with this movie.
Yeah, and Ving Rhames, I'm gonna shoot your motherfuckers if you don't listen.
I did like the truck they were driving though. I think didn't have like
yeah.
chainsaw like slots you could like use on the sides. So I did
Oh yeah,
like
and the
that
one guy dies like, It's so stupid.
So stupid.
There's a lot of zombies though. It was cool. I was like really nervous at some points. I also like Jake Weber's Michael. I thought when I was a little kid, I thought that this was Dead Rising. I was so stupid when I was small because the Dead Rising games, I thought that Jake Weber's character was the main character from the first Dead Rising game for some reason. But it was really fun.
Blend together.
Kind of, right? It kind of does. I mean, and hey, we got Army of the Dead now, one of my other favorite zombie movies. So you always got to start somewhere. Before I say one show that I think everyone knows what I'm going to talk about, let me just go straight to Black Summer. Black Summer is I believe, a prequel to Z Nation. Here's the interesting thing. The Resident Evil show, if you guys haven't checked out a review, go ahead and I'll link it down below. Go ahead and check out a review for that. So Z Nation kind of reminds me of Resident Evil, and I've been saying this, that Resident Evil, if they took out the name Resident Evil and some of the copyrighted monsters, then I think it will be favorited by fans just like Z Nation was. Now here's the interesting thing too, because the fact that you made Z8 and Z Nation that was so campy, I feel like you could make a spin-off of the Resident Evil show and make it really serious, because that's what Black Summer is. Black Summer is so gritty, realistic. It's very serious. It's not campy whatsoever. Very, very scary. And it started, I believe it came out in 2019. It's kind of like 28 Days Later, but the camera techniques is kind of like the John Wick movies, where it's very like, it moves back and forth like next to people. Long sequences of a continuous shot where people are running and multiple zombies join in. It's like an anthology, meeting up with different characters. I know you didn't watch that, but I definitely recommend for you to watch the show. It has nothing to do with really Z Nation. They say it's a spinoff, but like it really lives on its own.
Do you know if this is on HBO or Netflix?
Netflix, yeah, Netflix original series. Yeah.
It sounds really interesting. I'll definitely give it a chance. Just give me a chance.
What about my zombies? Did you give it a chance?
No, but that sounds really interesting, and Akram's the man when it comes to zombie films, so
I love them.
Definitely like check out his recommendations.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to, I think we both agree. This was that we were big Deadheads in high school too. So you want to talk about your final property?
Yeah. So Walking Dead, I think a lot of people. It's one of those things where it just goes on forever. It's kind of like Days of Our Lives or One Life to Live, and those soap operas. I stuck with it ever since. I have a special relationship with it. I know that you watched up to, what season did you watch up to?
I believe it was 4 or 5.
Yeah,
I think it was after Terminus. So I think right before Negan came in, I believe.
Yeah, I have a special relationship with it because, so I went back to read. Actually, I didn't actually read the omnibuses because I actually went back to read Robert Kirkman's stuff. It was my mother. She read it before me, and she's not into comics. It's like getting a random person to like read comics that they never
Right.
picked it up before. She bought the books, and I was like, "Oh shit,
Oh,
you're
wow.
reading that?" Yeah, and so I started to read it. It's very different from the show, but it's interesting how certain elements come into the show, and you know, the great thing about Robert Kirkman that I think a lot of people don't understand is, especially with Invincible, I can't wait to review Invincible season 2 with you.
Yes.
Yeah, he writes characters that it feels like a soap opera. It's a lifetime, right? It's like from point A all the way to point Z later on in life. And this is what Walking Dead is, the show. Is it kind of tiring? Yes. Are there stupid decisions? Yes. I think for the most part, like Fear the Walking Dead is really cool. I actually prefer Fear the Walking Dead now over the Walking Dead. They had different spin-offs that we'll probably go into more into our Walking Dead Revisited. Yes, we're doing one once Walking Dead season 11 finally finishes. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to stop because I already made it so far. And anyway, it's going to finish for good now. And I think they were really revolutionary with the special effects that they use.
Well, let me just say, Robert Kirkman, you better sponsor this video because Akram is probably the
Yes.
only one watching Walking Dead at this point.
I love you, Robert Kirkman. I love you so much. I seriously do, dude. Thank you. I love all your comics. Seriously, if you're watching this ever.
Right. Well, as someone who kind of like fell off the series, well, let me talk about the things I like in the first, I guess, 4 seasons. I did like the whole, like you said, like soap opera thing. I think I liked how they treated it. It was it was zombie, inspired, and they have like a lot of zombie tropes in it. But it's about the humanity that the characters who are the living, and the show kind of like builds on the idea that the living are actually like more dangerous than the dead. Because zombies, I'll be honest, I didn't like care much for the zombies in Walking Dead because like they're very slow, they're very like stupid. You could easily like kill a bunch of them at once. But the characters, I did like the character designs in this, and the characters really like shine, and just like their personality traits and the way they, certain gear that they have, I thought was really interesting. Merle was like one of my favorite characters. He was Daryl's brother, and of course everybody loves Daryl too as well. He's such an iconic character. Yeah, and Rick's story, I thought was really compelling, and I really like season 3. I think was my favorite season because they were dealing with like the governor, and I thought that was like peak like Walking Dead at that point. That I remember you and I were really like following Walking Dead at that time. But they had like this kind of like villain now that you could kind of like build like this cool story off of. And Andrea too, I felt bad for Andrea just like for her character. But she's in a few other movies now. Michonne was awesome. They great adaptation from the comics too.
Oh yeah.
And then after Terminus, I don't know. It just kind of like felt very. I don't know. It felt like very formulaic for me. I'm sure a lot of people would agree as well. It became like another. I don't know. It like they just made some weird decisions, and then they would just do the same theme over again. They tried to do this, build a society in Alexandria. I remember like bits and pieces from that season. And they tried to live like a normal life, but it ended up, failing. But yeah. So for you, I guess since you're continuing with the series, are there any like moments for you in the newer seasons that like? I guess what I'm saying is like, what makes it for you still worth watching?
Well, a lot of people actually dropped off too when Negan arrived, and that's one of the most famous scenes too. And I think they perfectly casted Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan. In the comics, Negan is a gym teacher, and he has a very interesting story. Like you could kind of consider his story arc kind of like a line graph. It's just like boom, 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 because that's his mentality throughout the whole thing. He's constantly balancing dark and light. And he's not all that bad, actually. It's just when you're put into this world, you have to survive. And sometimes you don't have the best motivations. And Rick kind of went through that too around the terminus like season. He kind of was like balancing that, right? He kind of seemed like a villain. I remember that was the big point, and he had that beard and stuff like that. He was like a wild man. And they bounced back to different settlements, and they could never really like, nowhere is really home. And I think the point is home is like who you love, and that's your anchor, and that's what like ties you into reality. And if you look at a lot of the villains, they're not really like tied to reality. They're like off the cuff. They're really, really insane. And I think it's such a sensitive back and forth between a love and evil, and every season balances that. And a lot of people die. It's very tragic. And I think so that's why I'm so attracted to it too. It's just because I'm seeing these characters get older, or the actors get older. I'm seeing the characters grow. This season, it's exactly like the final comic. They're finally in a, I'm not going to spoil it, but they're like in a huge place with a lot of people. And the ending, let me tell you, in the comic, the ending, I felt like Robert Kirkman, dude, you almost make me want to cry. I don't know why. It's like every time you write like a finale to something, I always feel like to cry. It's so beautiful, the ending. I hope that they do it justice in this show. I'm not too sure, because Judith is a new character, right? That's the one gripe I have, is like they killed off Carl. They killed off a couple of characters that never happened. Like Andrea never died. Andrea, like, she survived all the way until the end, around the time with the Whisperers in the comics. So it's like, it's really weird. Take it or leave it. Sometimes it's a little bit cheesy. Sometimes it looks like they ran out of ideas. There was an episode from this season where Daryl and Carol, they were literally, I think Carol was chasing a mouse, probably the mouse from Cabinet of Curiosities. Like, she was chasing a mouse through the whole episode, and Daryl was just hunting for like chicken or something. And it was like, even they had like whimsical music. It was so stupid. You could tell that was a filler episode. So you could tell it's like it's on its last legs. It's trying to hopefully it sticks to landing towards the end. But I think that, I don't know, it's just something about it. You're never going to see a world like this again. Like a lot of movies that we see are very one place to the other. When you reach a point where you're seeing these characters live finally, because there's so many seasons, you're seeing them live now, and you're seeing them actually settle down. Kind of feels like you're family with them too. And it's kind of like those shows where you have close friends, you have close family, and they stuck with you watching this. It's special. It's like your little event. It's just something to like sit down after dinner and watch. And that's why I think some people like me continue to watch it. Because it's a lot more than the show. It's just the experience, and also reading the comics, and you know what happened in the comics, so you have two thoughts going on. That's why I stuck with it, and I will continue to stick with it. There's Fear the Walking Dead, I think, will take over as the main Walking Dead thing. You had Beyond, The Walking Dead: The World Beyond. That was ass, but they showed the origins of the zombie virus. We have plenty of spin-offs. I will always stay with it though, because I have that sentimental thought in it. And I think there's still time for it to be better, because I don't believe that zombie genre sometimes, that's why I like Army of Dead. I don't believe it has to be all about survival. I think you could do a lot more, right? You could do a lot more of something. Imagine the movie Gray Man. Like, let's say you have Gray Man, but it just so happens that it's like a zombie thing. How are you going to find a plane? How are you going to do this? Just have the zombies in the background. And I think that's what Walking Dead's about. And I think that's how you can revive it. Stop making everything about survival. Just try different genres out. But there are zombies in the world. Play in that sandbox, and I think you'll do fine. And I hope that they survive and not get infected. But that's my final pick for zombie properties.
Well, thank you for that awesome review, and we're gonna be revisiting Walking Dead obviously in a later episode. I'm sure you're gonna be excited for that.
Yeah.
And I believe Walking Dead is coming on its final season.
Yes,
is it already here?
Series finale.
Yeah. So that'll be awesome to discuss. But guys, that's our final thoughts. Thank you for sticking around for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry we kind of like messed up the intro, but yeah, we have fun on this podcast. It's all right. But yeah, I hope you guys have a safe and spooky Halloween. But Akram, why don't you wrap up this review for us?
Yeah, thank you so much. If you really, it means a lot if you made it to the end. That just shows that you really care about the content and you're enjoying it, and that pleases the heart. Really, thank you so much. As we always say, we love you. And if you guys can, please just leave a like and check out our other playlists. If you're new to this channel, if you really enjoyed this video, check out our other reviews. I always say we're reviewing Andor, Handmaid's Tale every week. We have plenty of movies coming up in November, actually, because October is about to finish. We have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I cannot wait to review that. If you guys can, also check out our TikTok, check out our Instagram. And if you don't like YouTube, right, and you just so happen to be here and you're a nut and you just made it to end for some reason, go check out Anchor and Spotify as well. We're everywhere. We're trying to take over the world, and yeah, so but as always, Dylan.
And thank you to our 92 subscribers.
Yes.
Holy shit. You know, it that really warms my heart that you guys are really like supporting our channel. I mean, we're still a pretty new channel, but it feels like it's been a bit of a slow burn, but I think we're coming to a good place as a community. So thank you guys for helping our channel every day. But thank you guys so much, and until then, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, guys. See you.